invite on stage Mr. Rajat Srivastava, who is the founder and CEO for DesignX. Please welcome him with a huge round of applause.
Hi everyone, pleasure meeting you all. First of all, thank you so much UBS team for this platform today. I'm really thrilled to be among all of you. First of all, who am I? However, we have a brief introduction of mine, but I'm basically a manufacturing fanboy who still gets butterfly in his belly when he goes to the shop floor and looks how on the shop floor simple normal stuff gets converted to all the basic necessities and the delights that we use in our day-to-day life, right? In my small journey of over a decade, I've been privileged to work with some really industry transforming projects. For example, we have played pivotal role in helping Unilever to achieve lighthouse status for a couple of their factories. We helped Hero MotoCorp to connect more than 350 vendor and supply chain to have a real-time visibility for their new product development, for their vendor quality, for their vendor production and all that thing, right? We also helped Dabur globally to manage their ESG, right? So the list goes on and on and on. We have helped companies to achieve their transformational goal within 20% of the budget against what they initially estimated, right? So those sort of impact we have been able to achieve. For last 10 years, we never had been selling, right? So all these customers that you're looking, it is not due to a very active sales process, it is largely due to word of mouth. We were working on a product and we were perfecting that product because we realized that no matter what industry is acting today, right, the global reality is this only, right? So it's a survey from World Economic Forum called SIRI, Smart Industrial Readiness Index, right? It basically tells us that despite all the effort, right, there is a significant development or there's a significant activity in the automation and robotics area of the shop floor, right? But on the shop floor connectivity side, there is little to no activity. Like if you can see on the shop floor connectivity side, there is either it is 0 or 1, right? So there is very under activity that has been. And what we were hearing earlier in that use case, what sir was explaining, like how shift in charge has to sit in one corner of the factory and the activity is happening across the factory, right? It is the same connectivity that we are talking about. Like no one is actually able to know what is happening in what corner of the factory, right? Just to give you a further example of this, right? Recently, I was talking to one of my banker friend. He asked me this very particular question, right? 50 to 60% company who goes to them for a loan and all, the basic case that they put that we have this huge line of order and then we have this huge line of inventory that is available and we want additional loans to fulfill those orders, right? So the basic question that he asked, why, if they already had those orders, why they still kept on making all those inventory and why not delivered those orders, right? This is a classic example of disconnected shop floor, right? And if you drill down this problem statement, you'll understand that whenever we analyze shop floor, we generally analyze shop floor in terms of OE, right? OE is a very isolated KPI, which basically tells how much a machine could have made and how much it actually made, right? This is the very fundamental of OE. But and as a resultant, what happens is that in most of the factory, what people tends to execute is that they tend to produce those SKUs which are easier to make, which gives them higher OE and all that thing. As a resultant, the inventory gets piled up while the order remains as is. This is a classic example of disconnected shop floor. Same thing can be extended to safety, quality, production, maintenance, all sorts of departments, right? And this is what I'm solving, right? If we take this example to even next step, right? Just to give you a taste of what disconnected shop floor look like, let's take this. Do a thought experiment, right? What if WhatsApp people, rather than building the WhatsApp that we know today, they would have built something where whenever you have a new message, you have this dashboard at your home and you get this light glow, right? And once that light glow, you have to send someone to the nearest postal center to collect your message, right? Sounds absurd, right? And the best that we could have done is we would have sent the youngest one in the family to get that letter, right? That's the max we could have done. But you could see all that absurdness within the approach, right? But now if we accept or not, if we look at our factories, we are trying to achieve something similar, right? Where we are constantly hammering down onto a thing called let's connect your machine, let's connect your machine, let's connect your machine, and have real-time actionable and dashboard, right? But the problem is that once that actionable is there, the response layer is fairly traditional, right? It has not changed since last decade, I would say century, actually. The max that we have incorporated is Excel and PowerPoint, which is nothing but a pseudo IT system, right? So, and if you can see, everything is disconnected. The market is disconnected, the factory machines are disconnected, the processes are disconnected, the departments are disconnected. And this sort of experience is what we are having in the factory premises. Now, digitizing those processes not only gives you a sane approach or a closed loop to all the actionable, but it solves even a bigger problem, right? Right now, everyone is looking forward to implement AI, ML, and all that thing, right? AI, ML guys are typical software engineers. The first thing that they would ask is, do you have the data, right? And the answer to this question is no in more than 99% of the factory, because collecting data right now is a very costly affair. It has been made a very costly affair, because the only solution that everyone is recommending everyone is you go ahead and connect your machines, right? While, the way we have been running our factory for last 50, 70, 80 years without blowing it up is by very consistently following system and processes, right? And within these systems and processes, we are pretty much capturing everything that is required to be captured, that is required to be monitored, and that is required to be tracked. The sole problem is however we are capturing it, but the data is not accessible to us, right? Taking an example of one of our FMCG customer, right? Initially, they wanted to capture water consumption data within their batches. They make beverages, right? So they wanted to track water as it was a key ingredient, right? So initially, they thought we'll connect all our pumps and everything with IoT, and they explored some solution, and the cost was going somewhere about 70, 80 lakhs, right? And they realized with no amount of water saving, we could ever get a ROI of this connectivity, right? And hence the project was going in a cold bag, right? Then they connected us, and they said, Rajat, we are looking forward to get this data. Can you help us, right? So we asked just one question to them, you must be already monitoring this parameter. They said, yes, we are monitoring it. So then the next question that we asked, at what frequency you are monitoring it? They said, there is a guy who's writing this parameter every 2 hours, right? Then I said, sir, even you are not going to sit at a dashboard to look at the data every minute. I think 2 hours seems to be a fair frequency, right? To which he said, even if I get data once a day, that is even a better frequency for me. But the problem is, right now I'm getting the data with a delay of 15 to 20 days. So that guy is writing that information into a paper logbook. Every 10 to 15 days, someone takes that logbook, converts it to Excel, and that Excel goes nowhere, right? And by that time, the decision is already expired. Every actionable is already expired. This is the grassroots problem, right? So we simply converted that logbook to an application, mobile phone app, right? And it got delivered the next day. The platform that we have, you can convert all those things within a day, right? So they had this digitization this next day, and it's been more than 2 years, they have never gone back to IoT, right? So we need to respect the processes that we are already executing on the shop floor. We sometimes underwrite those processes that only the IoT is the savior, right? So we need to respect that fact, okay? So now, now you would be asking, like, if solving the processes is such a lower hanging fruit and is such a no-brainer, why not everyone is doing it, right? It's due to the complexity of the process, right? So in every factory, though they follow the same set of process, but the definition changes hugely factory to factory, right? And no factory is going to adopt a software by changing their own process. They will always be like, and there is also a logic. all those workflow, all those process definition are there due to years of understanding, years of problem solving and all that thing. And that cannot be changed just to introduce a software, right? So the constant varying nature of these processes is the bottleneck number one for these processes to be digitized, right? Now, in the screen, the process that you're looking at, it is probably one of the simplest process on the factory shop floor called operator suggestion, right? Operator suggestion is whenever anyone has any idea around different department, they could just drop a suggestion. Earlier, it used to be a suggestion box. Now we have converted to a mobile application. So the transformation of such a simple idea, if that looks complex like this, you can just imagine how a hardcore process of production, quality, safety, maintenance, utility will look like, right? And this is the reason number one why more than 90% of the shop floors globally has a disconnected shop floor, right? Everything is happening in a traditional fashion. The second reason is not only it is complex, the number of processes are so many, right? I mean, earlier we were discussing 10 use cases, 15 use cases, 40 use cases. In a typical factory, there are close to 250 processes, right? And no roadmap in the world is taking care of all those processes. And unless you take care of all those processes, there is actually no transformation. Like something or the other will always be in some silo, which will be like either underwritten or all sort of skipped, right? So this is the second reason. Now the most common solution that we have today is either a custom development, because every factory has their own different logic to their process, right? Or you use some out-of-the-shelf product. Out-of-the-shelf product already has a problem because they cannot accommodate. Getting anything developed in a custom fashion typically take 8 to 9 months and requires a heavy cost, and that cost multiplied by 250 basically translate to one single thing, which is impossible, right? And never gets taken, right? So we had all these understanding, and we realized if this is the fundamental method to actually transform factories at the highest pace possible in the world, right? But how to do it, right? We did a lot of brainstorming. We thought, we worked on several prototypes, we worked on several software, multiple iteration and all that thing. But nothing was able to actually cater to manufacturing as a holistically, right? Every new company, every new factory, when we were going, we were getting some of the other variations of the process, and which we were not able to handle out of the shelf, right? As a resultant, finally we took inspiration from this graph, right? This graph is called Mandelbrot set, right? Though it is looking very chaotic, very complex, but if you'll understand the fundamental philosophy, you'll really appreciate it. It is nothing but a repetition of the same shape at a smaller and a smaller and a smaller scale, nothing else, right? And so though the fundamental philosophy is simple, even the equation from which it comes from is even more simpler. It is z is equal to z squared plus c, probably one of the simplest equation possibly that we have seen, right? As due to its fundamental nature, it is also called thumbprint of God, right? Why it is called thumbprint of God? Because if you look at the structure available across us, including us as well, everything is nothing but a repetition of same structure, whether it is a cauliflower, whether it is rivers, whether it is leaves, whether it is anything. It is repetition of same thing at a smaller and a smaller and a smaller scale, right? That's how nature creates the complexity, right? And that's what inspired us to make DFOS, Digital Factory Operating System, right? It is a unified platform. It's a no-code platform which allows you to connect your existing systems, your ERP, but fundamentally it is a no-code drag and drop environment where you can create your own factory apps, right, within hours. That's the beauty of it. So it basically has three pieces. One is it supports you with all sorts of integration, right? Earlier, what Vinay sir was mentioning, that though we have different systems, but nothing is interconnected. So the first offering that DFOS gives you is it allows you to connect with all sorts of ERP system, all sorts of traditional system. For the connectivity, it's not just one solution. It's not just one API which is allowing you to connect, right? It is a series of technology which makes sure that no matter what state of your technology is today, we are able to connect. We use RPA, we use API, we use SQL, we use Excel upload. So no matter what is possible at your factory, we are able to integrate, right? Second is we can connect with all of the machineries, right? We have built this Hectus. This is our gateway, right? It supports connectivity from everything from a legacy, RLC-based circuit to a PLC to a SCADA to a IoT, modern IoT, right? It can connect and take data from all those systems. It can take triggers from computer vision system. It can take triggers from any of the system, right? But finally, what it allows you to do, it allows you to digitize your process, right? So just take a moment, right? In a typical factory, there is going to be 10,000 assets, right? At no given point, no one is going to connect all the 10,000 assets with IoT, right? This is going to be the reality, no matter what effort we are going to make, right? Eventually, it will always be a mix where 70 to 80% of assets will be manually maintained or manually acted. Some 10-15% assets will be connected over IoT, and some top 5% supercritical assets will be connected over some predictive systems and all those things, right? But once these systems are connected, no matter if the breakdown is reported manually, if it is coming through IoT, if it is coming through if it is coming through some predictive system, eventually it is the same breakdown handling system which is going to take care of all these three kind of actionables, right? There is not going to be a separate process for separate system, right? So DFOS allows you to have that hybrid kind of experience. Okay, so fundamentally what it does, it connects your market to your planning, it connects your planning to your processes, and it connects your processes among your departments. So it gives you a 360-degree connectivity rather than working in isolation. Okay. So finally, our topic, what is disrupt without disruption, right? We fundamentally identified that we took inspiration from two of the biggest disruptor of Indian market. One is UPI, which taught us how data can be collected at scale without investing heavily onto ATM machines, card swiping machine, just by using a computation power available in our mobile phone. That is there in our pocket, right? It taught us. Same goes for GI. It eliminated the requirement of modem in every corner of the country, right? That is the impact that it actually made. With DFOS, we identified that right now factories are getting disrupted in two ways. First, they are bound to be bombarded with heavy amount of hardware, which is not needed. Unless there is an actual logic, right? The second is, even if there is a software, they are bound to change their processes just to match the software, right? That is the second kind of disruption that is happening. So with DFOS, we had a very clear-cut vision that we should be able to transform processes without disrupting even an iota, right? So no matter what sort of report you are looking, no matter what sort of workflow you are following, no matter what sort of dashboard you are looking, you can just simply convert it. And then you can prioritize what has to be connected over IoT and what is just fine if you are capturing manually, right? But the point is, you should have a 360-degree data, right? So the final roadmap that we are offering is a 3-step journey. The first thing that we are saying that first you should have all of your process digital. Without that, there is no point of having all those actionable in isolation because no one is going to take care of those actionables, right? And you should have this unified data layer. The second is automation of the critical data, right? For example, taking an example from UPI itself, right? While UPI allows you to do transaction in every corner of the country, but somewhere within the malls, because there is a density of the population, we don't receive a proper internet, right? So in those scenarios, it is fine to have a card swiping machine, right? So that way we can optimize our investments, right? And then in the second stage, automating all the data, establishing an end-to-end traceability, and creating all the predictive model. There is another for the lack of better word, there is another lie going around in the market that just by collecting machine data you can do a predictive model, right? There cannot be a more false statement than that, because in a machine only tell you that whether I'm running, not running, what is my production, couple of error codes and all that to the max. There are 16 kind of losses that happens around a machine, and machine can only tell 4 or 5, right? That is the second. So you require human labeling in order to create any relevant AI ML model for your factory, okay? And the last is agentic manager. I'll just take one more minute. What is a agentic manager? So now that all of your process is digitized, all of your data is connected and all, now actually for the first time you can have a conversational layer, and you can tell the LLM model that look in the quality system, if the quality rejection goes more than 10 or 15%, ask the production manager to stop the production, right? Now for the first time you can give all those commands, right? Just because your processes are digital. Without that, there cannot be an agentic deployment within your factory. Agents are the AI agents, basically, I'm talking about, okay? And the metaverse of the factory. Now, also we heavily talk about digital twin AI and the metaverse of the factory. Metaverse is basically a split of three things. One is the 3D model, which there are so many players who can make. The second is populating that 3D model with the factory relevant data, which is the real missing point. Factory don't have a data to populate on the digital twin. That's why most of the digital twin are not possible today, right? And then the last is the AI ML model. And even in order to make the AI ML model, one has to have the labeled data. Okay. So yes, guys. So then that's it.
Thank you.